My friends, you are going to love this. We get an opportunity today to speak to Linda Yaccarino, and I don't think she does this very often, but not only has she got the best dress you're going to see in a long time, she has also got some incredible wisdom for understanding what it really takes to be the kind of leader that makes a difference in the world. So listen up, this is going to be fantastic. This is the Arable Leader Podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and we're exploring true, brave, kind, curious leadership, leading from your soul. Great to be with you again, the Arable Leader Podcast. And we're really excited today as we talk about what it means to be the kind of leader that changes the world. True, brave, kind, and curious. We're excited. I'm so excited to have Linda Yaccarino with me. Linda, I'm going to go the busiest woman on the planet. You know, if there was a Girl Scout busy badge, you've got like two of them. And so I don't take it lightly that you've taken time out of your schedule to be with me and to be on this podcast. So thank you so much for doing this. I want to jump straight in. And people know you as the CEO of X. And they see this kind of persona out there. They like it, they attack it, or whatever they do. What does the CEO of X do? I mean, I know you a little, and I don't know what you do. I just know you fly a lot. So what are you doing right now, and what are you working on big?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here. I know you have a lot of incredible people that you spend time with and have on your podcast, and I think I might just be as excited as you, if not more, to sit and chat with you.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for that opportunity. And what do I do as the leader of X? You know, I'll tell you that no 2 days are ever the same. If you think about it, we're about an 18-month-old brand new company as we race through this transformation. So no 2 days are the same. And it's quite often where I say no 2 hours are the same.
Yeah.
So as we are still transforming at this light speed from Twitter to X to the everything app, that's what, when I'm in the office, heads down, meeting with all the teams to make sure that we are transforming as quickly as possible to become the everything app. But as you said, I'm on a plane a lot. I travel a lot. It's to communicate all the progress and the mission of X to all of our key stakeholders around the world, whether it's our employees, whether it is our commercial customers like advertisers, or important partners like government officials all over the world. And that's what keeps me on those planes all the time. And that's also what's so exciting because of the pace at which we are transforming and changing what users all over the world, what people all over the world expect of what was just a social media platform. It's completely different.
So we'll get into some of that in a little bit. I want to slow the pace a little bit and ask about who you are. We do this true, brave, kind, curious thing. And really what we're trying to do with that is say, I'm so not interested in the kind of techniques of leadership. I'm not interested so much in the strategies and the tactics. I'm really interested in the character. I'm really interested in who someone is, because I think great people become great leaders. Great leaders lead great teams. And so I know you to be a great person. But what people see is not always who you are, right? They see this person, they see this image. Who's Linda Yaccarino? If I were to talk to your husband or people who know you really well, what kind of 3 words would they use to describe you as a person?
Oh, goodness. That's a really good question. And I hope you catch my husband on a good day.
I'm sure I would.
But I would say that, you know, people have an idea of this persona because when you have a public facing role, there's these slivers or glimpses of who you are as a person. But I would say if you have a glimpse of me from either what I post or things that are covered, or you see places where I am or attend, I would say authentic is probably one of the right words that people would to use to describe me. I would say almost like use the phrase kind of what you see is what you get. Somebody who is, definitely a leader, but kind of roll up the sleeves.
Yeah, get it done.
Get it done, but also a work side-by-side mentality. And that's probably what attracted me to the opportunity at X in the first place, because of the authentic nature of the platform itself, right? Okay. So everyone, kind of invited in to be themselves in real time. This platform that's alive, that's what attracted me, because you could be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think how else people would really describe me as, I would probably say as your most transparent partner. Tough conversation, easy conversation, candid. That's what you're going to get from me. Yeah. You never leave with question mark with how I feel or what my point of view was, but you will always leave with some type of probably path to a solution, whether we agree ultimately or not. So I guess I do go back to that word, authentic. Yeah. And I think that's what's fueled me my whole career as a leader.
So if I'm describing you, and I know you a little, I would say, you're a get it done kind of person. I feel like if I needed anything to get done in the world, you're the kind of person that I would call. If Linda's on it, Linda's on it, right? Do you ever stop? Do you ever get a moment when you just sit down and go, I'm just going to relax? And I'm assuming you do. So tell me about Linda. Describe your sofa. Describe. I'll tell you what. Describe your guilty pleasure. What are you watching? What are you binging? What are you watching?
Oh goodness, that's when I am home. It's a daily challenge fight with my husband. He, right. News, sports all day, every day.
Perfect.
And when you ask for guilty pleasure, I could never get him to commit, but it's my little slices of Bravo television. Don't judge me, Carl. Don't judge me. I've never talked to you about that before. So I would say that that's a guilty pleasure, probably because it would be just a complete escape.
I love things like that. I love home makeover shows. I love transformation stories.
But to be honest with you, these days, you ask if you do you ever stop or do you ever relax? When you're in a new position at a new company and you are trying to rebuild,
yes,
it's probably the biggest challenge that I have as a leader since I joined X to kind of balance that time between when you do stop. Yeah. Of course, like the physical body, you need to sleep. You need to rest your mind every once in a while because you have to, right? But that's the hardest thing to do because what's happening at the company is actually so intoxicating that especially, since I first started, it's very causes insomnia because it's hard to get your mind to rest when you're transforming at such light speed. And I talk about this a lot. It's like the scope of our ambition at X is almost difficult to describe. I don't know how long we have here today, but I could go on and on. But the pace of the innovation is what gets you. And the team that's at X is all in and it actually never stops. So that's what I confront since I walked in the door.
Let's push into that because one of our qualities is brave, which is about courage. It's also about purpose. It's what's the point of you? What's the point of X? Why do we exist? I want to ask you a question about your transition because, I knew you and was working a little with you at NBC. And then I was involved a little in the what's going on here and is something happening? And then you become the CEO at X. And I'm sure that half of your world went, what is she doing? What is this? So my question is, what were you thinking? What was going on in your head and why? And what got you there? What keeps you there? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Talk to us about that.
I will start by saying, the people who said, what were you thinking? The people who really knew me would never ask me that question. So I think for the viewers and listeners, it's important to just explain what my old role was.
Sure.
So I was the chair of global advertising and partnerships and a bunch of different things at the company. And part of that, part of my remit was to oversee and look after many of the enterprise relationships at the company.
Yeah.
And one of those relationships or partnerships was then Twitter.
Yeah.
So, and I looked after Twitter for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So I got to know the platform. I learned its place in the media ecosystem then, and I fell in love with it for very specific reasons. And being a media person most of my career, when you see the rhythm or the impact of technology on where the media ecosystem was going, it was very clear that for a legacy media company that to partner with then Twitter was of primary importance, because Twitter was able to take premium content from the screen in your home, your living room, or the screen in your lap into real time, the screen in your hand.
Wow.
And still today, there is no surrogate for that.
Yes.
So that's what drew me to know Twitter, work so well with Twitter. And when the acquisition happened and Elon bought the company, and there was this extraordinary outsized reaction by the media community, when the acquisition happened, I thought to myself, it certainly doesn't make any data sense.
Yeah.
But I also knew that the user or the consumer never changed their mind, right? So still, Twitter then, now X, now like the lifeblood of in real time, get to know, you have to check X now, whatever's going on in the world. So I knew that didn't change. So it prompted me to reach out to Elon.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him on behalf of the company at the time, but really to extend a helping hand. That said, I wanted to help. I wanted to help bridge that communication gap and try to reduce the outsized reaction that the marketplace had to the company.
The interview?
Yes. Yeah. That's when we had agreed to do this conference called Possible in Miami.
Yes.
And we met and we got to know each other, and things moved kind of quickly. And we went from there to now here. And I continue, let me go back to your questions, like what were you thinking?
Yeah.
At the beginning, I used to, which was about 15 months ago, at the beginning I used to say to people that it was a career opportunity of a lifetime.
Yes.
I've dropped the career part now when I tell people, and I talk about it's an opportunity of a lifetime.
And from my perspective, well done you. Whether one agrees with that move or whether one sees that move, so many, when they get to our kind of age, settle for the comfort zone of their life. And nothing grows in a comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Nothing great and creative happens in a comfort zone. It happens in a disruption zone. And Twitter X is a disruption, right?
I may have to steal that. I've never been described, or I like your disruption zone.
Well, Elon is a disruptor.
Well, and if anyone, when you said how would people describe you, or the people who would have said, what were you thinking? The other half said, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Because most of my career, and not at this pace currently that I'm going, but most of my career, people have described me more as a change agent, not necessarily, as an aggressive disruptor as we're on this exciting journey that we are now. But that's why I tell people that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
And that all of my experience and all of my, what I would say would be career-long almost insatiable curiosity about what's next has led me to where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, that's brilliant. I love that. Let's talk about kindness. So for me, kindness is, I think people dismiss it. I think when I walk around in corporate America and I talk about true, brave, kind, and curious, I think most people get the true, brave, and curious stuff. They might not use the same words. But when I say kind, I see particularly male, middle-aged men roll their eyes and go, oh, whatever. But I believe that kindness is one of the strongest and most powerful qualities, in that it prefers the other, in that it's looking bigger and longer and cares about what's going on, cares about the impact you're having in the world. I want to talk about free speech and how that works, because I know that you're passionate about that. So is X, and that's a big thing. And I would honor that. I think that's really important. How does free speech and kindness work together? Because I know you to be a kind person, right? I know you carry that. And yet some people would look at the whole social media world and say it's not very kind. It's really it can be quite destructive and nasty. How do you walk that line between opening a space for people to express themselves and making sure that there's not carnage everywhere?
Well, I think it's important to talk about first X's dedication and efforts to protect free speech around the world.
Yep.
Because it does go hand in hand in the things you describe or the things you ask me in your question. Because if what X is doing is creating a global town square where people, every person from every walk of life can show up and be themselves and speak their mind freely without fear of censorship.
Yes.
That is a place where, in success, democracy thrives.
Yes.
So the freedom of speech around the world creates a place where people can come and gather and speak freely, right? Without fear of censorship. It's really important. And when we talk about words like authenticity, empathy, kindness, you've got to be able to show up and be yourself.
Yes.
In terms of managing discourse, I often describe X as a mirror or a reflection of culture. But I also talk about X in all the policies that we have in place.
Yes.
To make the platform safe for people to communicate, to create, to share. So we feel really, really good about, since acquisitions, all of the policies that we've put in place to make the platform so alive and to thrive in efforts to protect free speech around the world. And it's really, really important. I think it's also another, kind of conversation that you have to have as a leader.
Yes.
And a lot of that, when we use those words, authentic, transparent conversation, candid conversation, kind of is founded in or the foundational word I would use would be respect.
Yeah.
And that's one thing in terms of being a leader where I'm more of a partnership-oriented leader. I think that's what's driven a lot of, kind of my progress as a leader throughout my career.
No, I'm really pleased to hear that, because you can't do a good thing in a bad way and call it great.
Well, yes, and I know people sometimes with the change at X, and we talk about free expression or the freedom of speech a lot, but in the world, somehow along the way, we lost the ability, or for a lot of decision makers, to feel confident enough to allow different points of view.
Yes.
And for freedom of speech to be successful, you have to have someone you disagree with say something you disagree with.
100%.
Therein lies debate, but therein lies also compromise, solution, decision making.
Yes.
And when you talk about whether it's kindness or the freedoms that would make people thrive and be successful all around the world. I think that's what we have to remind ourselves of, everything that we should probably revisit that we've lost along the way.
Well, 100%. Kindness is not niceness. Kindness is the calibration between grace and truth, right? Me speaking truth to you is kindness.
But it's interesting. You use the word, the intersection between grace and truth, which is, I think that's the way you said it. But one of the biggest things that we confront is, who would ever think the amount of pushback or adversity with complete dedication to the truth?
Yeah.
And that's where the interaction of the grace and the truth, think about what X is doing. X is challenging every corner of legacy that there is. And when there's gatekeepers of information that are being disrupted, that's what makes that challenge, or makes it really hard to support that intersection between grace and truth. It's because people who have had a legacy hold, or gatekeepers of their version of the truth, are being tested or disrupted.
Yeah, and that's where curiosity comes in, isn't it? I mean, I'm fascinated by the fact, what's the phrase? Assume makes an ass out of you and me. It's total nonsense. Assume is what makes the world go round. I assume gravity. I got out of bed this morning. It's what you marry assumption to that makes you either an open or closed person. If you marry an assumption to a judgment, if you're always judging after an assumption, you shut things down. But if you can marry assumptions to curiosities and leave things open, we get to a much better space in life. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about you and kindness. Because how do you protect Linda? I see and read things. I know you, and I speak to you, but I see and read things about you. You must see some of those things. How do you guard your heart in the middle of all that stuff? How do you disallow yourself to become cynical about the world?
Well, since you invited me here today, I'm assuming, okay?
Yep, good.
So I'm listening to you. I'm assuming that you believe at least less than half of what you read.
I believe way less than half of what I read.
Thank you for that. That being said, you ask how you guard yourself. It is one of the things I underestimated the impact of the insatiable scrutiny that as a leader, as a new leader at X, that I would be under. I had a very public-facing role at my old position, but there wasn't the insatiable scrutiny and, quite frankly, difference of agendas that people have to this world we're living in of clickbait headlines or gotcha moments. I have to say, it's got me at moments. So you say, how do you protect yourself, or how do you not become cynical? I want to always stay a little vulnerable to where I'm always going to be affected by some of that, because I don't want to let my guard down. It is my responsibility to always be at the ready to protect the company, to protect the employees. But some of these things have gone beyond the pale, right? And I have to protect my family too. Yes. And I need to be there for them in these times when, there's been some attention that certainly has been less than honest. And I have to say, while I've developed a thicker skin, I don't want to develop too thick of a skin.
No, that's good.
Because then you lose all those other things that we talk about.
You lose humanity.
And the beauty of enjoying being a leader, the empathy, the authenticity. I don't want to always have to have my guard up. And then at some point you have to say, so be it.
Yeah.
And some of the articles, people ask me, oh, did you see that? I can't consume them all.
Yeah.
It's too distracting, and I'm there to do a job, and we're transforming like no other company has, and I keep my head down. And there, I talk about this a lot, and I've probably said this to you in the past. There are many nights that I go home from work and I tell my husband, I'm pretty sure I witnessed history today. And that's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
That's what helps you ride through those choppy waves.
Okay, let's push into curiosity, because we talked about it a number of times. What are you dreaming about right now? What are you thinking about right now? What's blowing your mind right now? What are you working on that you can't quite get your head around, that you think's coming down the track for us?
Oh goodness. What am I thinking about? What I, kind of like, there's always that next. Yeah. The company is like that. You're like, there's always the next. I would have to say what, I guess like a headline I constantly go back to: the scope of the ambition and the pace of the innovation.
Yes.
And that's what, kind of keeps you focused every day. But I could sit here and talk to you about 5 or 6 game-changing features, capabilities, conveniences that we will offer our users in the next 2 or 3 quarters at the longest, at the furthest, that will change what users around the world expect of a social media platform, in addition to protecting free speech around the world. So that's what the thing that keeps me always going is the sense of urgency. Yeah. And it's the biggest difference of actually any company I've worked at in my entire career. And the single biggest differentiator is the palpable sense of urgency at the company. And that's what is just super exciting. It's super exciting for the team at X right now. It's super exciting when I'm recruiting people to come into the company, because a lot of times it's hard to describe. At other companies, I would be sitting here with you today talking about one great next thing or 2 great next things. And it's hard for me to bottle all of the things that we're working on to talk to you about.
Wow. Tell me about what really motivates you at the core. The 5th question I always ask is around what I call it the soul question, because I have this thing that we are so much more than the 5 senses. There's something going on with us that is core driver and core motivator. What really gets you as far as belief is concerned, or why do you do this? Why do you show up? What is it at the heart of this?
Well, you do know me for a while. So what really drives me as a person, or keeps me very focused on why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is quite frankly mission oriented, is really the foundational core values I have in my faith and my family. You've known me long enough to know that those are key drivers. They're key components of my moral compass. Yeah. That moral compass drives the leadership at X, and it's really in part what drove me to come to X was the mission of it all. And X uniquely in all of the ecosystem, in all of the world, to invite people to a global town square that is fighting to protect freedom of speech and expression around the world. I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that as, again, an opportunity of a lifetime.
So I'm totally obsessed with leadership, because I think that leadership is the greatest human gift. I think the ability to influence another person, to influence a culture, to make a difference is like everything. You have a lot of influence, right? People will listen to you because of the position, but also because of the person. If you had an opportunity to wave a magic wand and change something about the way we teach, train, encourage leadership in this nation, what would you be doing right now? What would you be saying to this next generation that perhaps they haven't quite got or they lack? What's your input and advice?
First of all, I do worry about the next generation of leaders, because, the last bunch of years, whether it's COVID or just social unrest,
Yeah.
I think they are underprepared
Yep.
for real life experience in business or adversity. I think we have to spend a lot of time.
They're also really hesitant about coming. I mean, I've written, as you know, some stuff where I talk about the cycle that we get into as far as leadership is concerned. We deify our leaders, put them on pedestals. Then they make a mistake, we demonize them.
Okay,
and then we cancel them.
Exactly.
And then the next generation denies leadership. And says, I don't want to be a leader anymore.
Because you don't want to put yourself at risk in that
100%.
way. So, and I think that's also, this, as I told you, this clickbait culture that we live in is really a reflection of then now the cancel culture.
That's right.
So it's not dissimilar from what you describe. But throughout my career as a leader, I was lucky enough to work at early in my career in places that were very entrepreneurial in nature. So the notion back then, and they didn't use these words, whether it was, kind of iterate on your ideas or in real time, you're going to change, fix, to make something successful. Back then, I would tell my teams, I'm going to make you feel confident to fail.
Yeah, great.
Because if you didn't have the confidence to fail when you wanted to do never been done before things or groundbreaking or push change in whatever particular market or product we were launching at the time, then how would you ever break new ground if you didn't have that confidence? And it's really, and I think about it a lot, about coming to X, because we don't always ship product when it's perfectly ready. Like I would have worked on a show in my old job for a year until it was perfectly curated and polished and beautiful and perfect. But now it's okay. We'll iterate and we'll get it right, and we'll then bring it to more and more users to experience. And there's beauty in that. Well, but it also requires confidence for you to be able to iterate in real time.
Totally. There's also humility in that. Yeah. We don't know everything. We're having a go. And one of my mentors uses the phrase, make aggressive mistakes. Yeah. Stop making passive ones. Passivity is the enemy of everything good in your life. So go after things. And failure, well, there is bad failure. Stop doing the same thing again and again and failing. But there's also great failure when we push things.
Well, I think in terms of great failure comes the next.
Exactly.
Right? And you're not always going to be successful. You're not always going to be perfect. But if you don't learn from those mistakes, you're never going to get to the next. But the challenge, particularly for new leaders, is the culture of immediate report carding for fear of canceling.
Yeah.
Right. So do you have those aggressive leaders that you need that are confident enough to stare down that culture and really what turns out to be an aggressive hostility? And we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah. And that for a significant part is on us, isn't it? Yeah. We have to create the space for people to not be graded within an instant and then cancelled. We have to create the space where we apprentice them. People can fail on my watch. People can fail on my shoulders, and I'll take the heat for that.
You also brought up, you used a word that I think has gotten lost in the importance of companies. I think the work from home culture has affected it, and you said someone can fail under your apprenticeship.
Yeah, that's good.
And I talk to my teams a lot about the value of apprenticeship, the value of mentorship.
That's right.
And that is in-person, real-time interaction and taking them under your wing. Because how else will they learn from your mistakes? How else will they learn, or can you articulate your vision? And I think that's been lost, quite frankly.
Well, we're losing proximity, aren't we?
Yes.
We learn through imitation and inculcation, not just through information given to us. And so how can you do that unless you have proximity to people? Someone once said, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing badly.
Yeah. And the word proximity, I think, is really important because you need to be present.
That's right.
It's one of the biggest things I learned when I joined the company. Yeah. So I joined the company about 6 months post-acquisition. And as you know, kind of famously reported, a company of about 8,000 people then became a company of about 1,500 people. Yeah. And when I first started at the company and started reaching out to key stakeholders, the kind of the right sizing of the company caused an absence to key stakeholders out in the marketplace, whether it was marketers or government officials or vendors. And that absence led to almost like a mysteriousness of like who's there in absence. And the absence led to a conservatism and said, okay, I'm going to take a beat and I have to get to know who they are and I have to rethink my relationship. So I talk to my teams about that all the time. If the impact of the absence is really important for you to turn around and revert. And your presence, your proximity with our key stakeholders is the key to our success, right? And our reemergence as such a successful company.
So I'm probably getting waved at. We're probably running out of time, but that's okay. Let's keep talking just for a moment. Someone once said, I think it was Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. I kind of don't buy that. I think culture and strategy sit down for lunch, right? I think they're two parts of the same thing. The culture at X, you've got 8,000 to 1,500. It will bleed out to clients, to consumers. In this next season, as you begin, if you kind of now, it's not your company, but it is your company, right? What one or two things do you want to introduce into the culture at X that you hope will bleed out onto the platform and then beyond into culture writ large?
I think where it's already happening, which is communicating to whether it's users or our key stakeholders, that X has become such an indispensable platform. So whenever there is a global event or any type of cultural news of importance, you have to do one thing. Yeah. And that one thing you do is check X. Yeah. Right? So when you are such a meaningful, important platform, it really does inform your culture at the company because you have this responsibility of leadership and this obligation to uphold that kind of service and commitment to our users, to your fellow employees, to our customers. And it's kind of like a really unbelievable position to sit in at the intersection of culture, of news, of importance, and you play such a meaningful role. As I talk about all the time, there is no surrogate for it. So it's quite an exciting position to be in, and one I'm very, very fortunate and cognizant that I'm in. I'm so honored that you came and had a conversation with me. I have one final question, which may be the most important question I'm going to ask. Okay, I'm ready. What is it? Where did you get your orange dress? Because it's like, I've got 4 daughters, and they would say, the queen. She's the queen. Look at that stuff. Well, as you know, as part of I think we had a conversation once that you had asked me, who am I? I'm maybe a little bit of a frustrated fashionista, but it's the fall. Orange is in, isn't it? Pumpkin spice season. Yeah. Well, you definitely have upped the game because I love my previous guests, but dress sense, okay, right? But this is. Well, thank you. It's one thing I like to do is as a female leader, and I don't talk about that a lot because I don't like to define leadership in terms of any type of gender, but I do like to own my femininity. So there you have it. Bless you. Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and it's been a delight. Thanks, Linda. Carl, thank you for having me. What a pleasure. Bless you. You've been watching The Arable Leader with Karl Martin. Subscribe for more episodes with great leaders. And you can also listen to The Arable Leader wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources for leading in a healthy way, visit arableco.com and check out Karl's new book, The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire.